Glenn's team has been shot down by the Rhadorians and crash-landed on the small island of Shajid. Thanks to the help of a Rhadorian boy named Rosen, however, Glenn's team is now able to leave this island. Rosen is the Eye of Rhador, who lives alone on this island, watching out for mana storms, signaling with smoke from his giant chimney if anything unnatural begins to stir. Rosen was earnest in helping Glenn's squad, even giving them his boat. But he has one main ask for them: to leave this island and forget it ever existed. The team now heads off to the main island to continue their intended mission, to find potential sites to build Mako reactors. The main island, however, is home to the Rhadorian people, who have already shot down Glenn's team once. This is Chapter 3, an unfamiliar, hostile land. At sea, Glenn is still thinking about Rosen. He feels bad that Rosen will have to live out the rest of his life alone, tending to this chimney. Matt and Lucia jest with Glenn, asking if his parental instincts are kicking in or something. Glenn just looks back at the island, seeing Rosen's large chimney pyre still puffing smoke. White means he's still alive. Okay. As they reach the northern tip of the main island, Lucia realizes something. The large monster they once fought on the beach has been tailing after them. Glenn gives the monster a nickname: Stamp. I feel like Glenn's nicknames might get him in trouble one of these days. They attempt to fight the monster from the boat, probably not the best idea. It then cuts to Glenn being awoken by Matt and Lucia on the coast of the main island, saying that Glenn has been out for about an hour. I guess Stamp got the better of them. Matt informs them that they have reached their location, and the ruins should be nearby. But the mountains are a bit steep to climb, so Matt says they should find a more reasonable way up. As they search, they realize the terrain is not only very rough, but full of monsters. To their surprise, the same monsters they found on the much smaller island. The team goes more covert, as Matt, nicknamed the Professor by Glenn, wants to observe the creatures, not just to fight them, but to get an extra reward out of it. Glenn perks up at the chance of earning an extra reward, and says he will do what he can to help. Lucia calls Glenn out, saying he doesn't really want to help Matt, he just wants a cut. Glenn is actually upset at Lucia, thinking that he's just the type of guy who is hunting for a payday. But this ends up proving itself true, as Matt mentions there is no guarantee of a payday bonus. The reward Matt is talking about is just knowledge, and Glenn is thoroughly disappointed. The team finally makes it up to the mountaintop, taking a breather before heading on into the ruins. Matt and Lucia start to discuss how dangerous these ruins could potentially be. Glenn is completely ignoring them, however, still just wandering off thinking about Rosen. The team mentions that when they are done, they can go see Rosen again and maybe even bring him a gift. Did they not get the hint that Rosen doesn't want them on this island? He only said it every chance he had. Once at the ruins, Matt recommends setting up camp in a nearby cave. At camp, Matt has finally had enough of this professor nickname and says that he's going to start calling Glenn the scum of the slums. And Glenn says he isn't wrong. And Lucia, seemingly also getting a little tired of Glenn's antics and carefree nature, reminds Professor and Scum that they have work they need to do. Step 1, establish camp. Check. Step 2, use the Mako detection kit to find a good dig site. Step 3, transmit coordinates. Step 4, secure the area. And Step 5, run security for the engineers. Man, this is a long gig they got going on here. Matt mentions that it's been a while since they surveyed the Rhadorians, and their numbers could be anywhere from 500 to 1,000. Lucia does not think they could handle that many Rhadorians, and if what Rosen said is true about his people, that they won't fear death if their people's lives are in danger, then the fight might even be more ferocious, enough to give P0 class soldiers quite a challenge. The team navigates through the ruins, having to activate strange plates as they pass through, and checking areas with a detection kit as they go. The further they go, the higher the readings seem to be. They eventually find a site with a high Mako level, 138. Step 2 complete? No, Matt wants to go to some other sites as well, to give the company some more options. This extra credit dork looking for more sites, no wonder Glenn keeps calling him Professor. They get to the top of another mountain. 22 the kit reads, no good. But from here, they can again see Rosen's smoke. White smoke, still safe. But then they hear something, a helicopter. The Rhadorians have found them, and they begin to open fire. The team flees back to the 183 site, Matt attempting to quickly send out the coordinates to HQ in the chaos. Step 3 complete, coordinates sent maybe? The team then fends off one of the Rhadorian drones, and then has to retreat back to their camp. Returning to the camp, they feel they are now on to Step 4. Secure the site. They gear up in their soldier attire, as they know Step 4 might be difficult since the Rhadorians have already fought them once before, and now they have their eye out for them. They start to talk strategy a little bit, then suddenly, boom. Step 3.5, Glenn shouts. Secure our own safety. Camp is now compromised. And that's the end of Chapter 3. A little slower of a chapter at the start, definitely, but the team is starting to get a little bit fed up with some of Glenn's antics, and they have more important things to worry about now. They have found their Mako site, but the Rhadorians in turn have found them. So can Glenn's squad overcome these Rhadorians? Was their transmission even sent to HQ? Well, that leads us into Chapter 4, Attack of the Rhadorian. In the chaos of the explosion, Matt begins to babble numbers. Glenn confused. The Fibonacci sequence, Matt says. It's calming to me. Glenn was worried that Matt was just tallying up the debt he owes him. Lucia, again getting annoyed by Glenn, says she's leaving this cave as she has no plans of getting trapped in this rubble. Glenn stops her, saying that is not a good idea. At least that's what his gut is telling him. Matt says Lucia should listen to Glenn as Glenn is a doom dodger, which is an expert in certain death. The bombing continues and the team takes Glenn's lead as they head deeper into this cave. Lucia, channeling her horror movie tropes, trips. The slowdown causes their first confrontation with Rhadorian troopers, but the small unit isn't much of a match for Glenn's team, and they continue on into the cave. Lucia is worried about finding more bats in the cave. Glenn again jesting that, or maybe we'll find something even tastier in the cave. And they do find something more tasty, as they realize they might be in a monster nest. The team is now stuck. Monsters in front, Rhadorians in the back. Glenn believes they should push forward, preferring their chances with the monsters. As they go deeper, they start to feel a cool breeze. This could be another way out. The issue is, as they push and fight through the monsters, it's allowing the Rhadorians to catch up to them, landing them numerous other skirmishes with Rhadorian forces. We have to hurry, Glenn shouts. We cannot get pinned down here, and Glenn charges forward. They eventually run into a dead end. We need to turn back, Lucia says. Her and Matt both seemingly becoming nervous as more and more Rhadorians keep arriving. Remember your training, it'll be fine, Glenn boasts as he rushes at the Rhadorians. After the battle, Glenn lets his team know that he is proud of them. You know, Glenn might be a gambling, scummy type of guy who may love this kid named Rosen a little too much, but he does rise to the challenge when things start getting tough, so respect to him for that. They keep searching around to figure out where this breeze is coming from, and they find it. However, it is covered in thick roots. Get back, Glenn commands, getting his giant axe to carve away through the thick vegetation. Freedom. They leave the cave, finding themselves right at the site that measured 138 on the Mako detection kit, where they attempted to send the coordinates from in the first place, and where everything started. Boom. Another explosion. Matt and Lucia are both knocked to the ground. As they try to get to their feet, Rhadorian cavalry of 3 troop vehicles roll up, and the Rhadorians that were pursuing him in the cave have now also caught up. They are completely surrounded. Matt mentions that he thinks he hears a helicopter in the distance. This is gonna be rough, Glenn says. Don't die on me, okay? Glenn's team in the chaos then begins to charge the enemy to make what might be their last stand. They rush the Rhadorians, but suddenly, a white feather drops before them, and someone drops from the helicopter, seemingly descending from the heavens. A white-haired warrior lands in front of Glenn's squad, but unsheaths his sword, embedded with materia. And this warrior charges the Rhadorian forces, slicing the rockets in half that would have struck Glenn's team effortlessly. Glenn looks on as he watches the Rhadorians fall, trucks cut in half like they are nothing by this white-haired stranger. More and more Rhadorians start pouring out of the jungle, this time with tanks, more trucks, and more ordnance. One spell is all this white-haired warrior needs. And Glenn looks on. The once lush jungle full of Rhadorian troops is now nothing but cinders. Only this warrior remains standing in the flames, turning to them, smiling. I know him, Lucia says. He's the golden child, Matt responds. Glenn is more concerned with the fact that this warrior is just a kid. I am Sephiroth, the white-haired warrior says, one of Professor Hojo's soldiers. I am here to assist you. Return to your base. I will deal with the rest of them. Hurry. We can't return, Matt and Lucia start to explain. We fled from the cave and it's too dangerous in there. Glenn, however, cuts them off and says if Sephiroth can handle things outside, the 3 of them should be able to handle anything in the cave now. So let's go. Glenn's team seems a little uneasy with Glenn's new orders, but as they run off, more Rhadorian troops appear and Sephiroth engages. Glenn's team has now returned to this cave and is encountering more monsters. Glenn is seemingly on a bit of a battle high right now and declares monster, Rhadorians, who cares? Bring it on, we can take it. Lucia and Matt remind Glenn that they almost just lost their lives. Glenn then asks Matt and Lucia what exactly is Professor Hojo's soldiers. Matt goes on to explain Hojo's soldiers are active models, and unlike the P or passive models, which Glenn's team is, the active models have had their bodies modified, giving them heightened physical abilities and heightened affinity with materia, and they will soon become standard issue soldiers. Going to pause here for a second. I think it's interesting because it reinforces here that Glenn's team of soldiers weren't created by Hojo. They must be from some other type of project, and P0 is some type of prototype soldier. The details of P0 we don't really know yet, other than they've had some type of special training. Could they be modified in some type of way? It's never really been solidified yet as far as I know. Glenn says he thinks the new soldiers are just weapons then, and calls them cheaters. Lucia asks Glenn if he's just jealous, and Glenn shouts no way and stomps off angrily into the cave. The cave is now strangely quiet, and there are no Rhadorians to be found. Eventually they do encounter some bodies of Rhadorian soldiers, wondering what the heck happened to them. Suddenly, their old friend emerges, the Beast's Stamp, and after a fight with the Beast, he again runs off. Glenn wanting to actually pursue Stamp, but Matt telling Glenn to let it go. Glenn is again annoyed and stomps off angrily into the cave. Seems like Glenn might be having some anger issues right now. Uh-oh. They arrive back at their camp, which I thought got blown up not too long ago, but here we are. Sephiroth is already here waiting for them. "You're late," he says. Glenn, still heated, asks, "What's it to you?" Sephiroth says he will properly introduce himself to the team now. "I am Sephiroth, and I was dispatched here to act as your leader, and I will assume command of this team immediately." He tells Glenn that he has done well and thanks him. Just the cherry on top for Glenn's little rage out moment, huh? Matt and Lucia start to introduce themselves, and Glenn starts stomping angrily towards Sephiroth, Matt holding Glenn back. "You're a cyborg," Glenn yells at the child. "You'll never be one of us. I refuse to fight alongside anyone who didn't go through the type of training we did." Sephiroth lowers his head. "That doesn't matter to me," he says. "The only thing that does is that you obey my orders." And his orders are simple. Rest up, then resume on to step 4. Secure the area by eliminating all the remaining Rhadorians. "Just you and us 3? Glenn asks. "You heard me," Sephiroth retorts. And that's the end of chapter 4. Just when Glenn was starting to show an ability to lead, Sephiroth kind of shows up, saves the day, and just assumes leadership of the team, crushing Glenn's joy of being a squad leader and angering him enough to call Sephiroth, still a boy, a cyborg. Seems like a bad day with the new boss, huh? So how is this relationship of theirs going to start unfolding? Glenn does seem to have a soft spot for kids, but this is no normal kid. This is one of Hojo's soldiers, the golden child, Sephiroth. Or maybe there is a kid somewhere in there, but for now, their mission can restart, starting with the elimination of all Rhadorians. Yeah, that's it for now. If you like this video, leave a comment, like, subscribe, all that YouTube jazz. I'll see you in the next one. You can check out one of my other videos in the meantime. And as always, drive fast, take chances. Later, nerds.